Hi, my name is Danielle Welker, and this is my 526 capstone video on everything that I've completed in this class, as well as in my master's courses. I'm going to be talking about the different courses that I took and what we did in each class. The first course I'm going to talk about is Education 511, which is titled Foundations in Digital Teaching and Learning. In that class, we were taught how to use Wordle, Skype, and LiveBinder. It gave us an introduction to the EdTech program. It helped pave the way as we began thinking about using technology assignments in the classroom. The assignment, So What? Who Cares? Helped create goals from the get-go that would be followed throughout the entire master's course. The next course that I was able to take was Education 512 with Kay Hernandez. It was in this class titled Instructional Applications Productivity Software that I learned how to use Quest Garden and create my own web quest, as well as an iPad tutorial. I also had a scavenger hunt where I was able to familiarize myself with the APU campus as well as the services they offer. Education 514 with Bill Selleck was probably one of my favorite classes because it was all focused on digital video in the classroom. So camera technology, lighting, sound effects, editing, filming properly, uploading, creating your own YouTube as well as your own YouTube channel for other followers, as well as iMovie, which has enabled me to use this function now. This teacher was helpful and passionate about what he does. He modeled how to use different video apps in addition to going over iMovie and creating proper positioning for professional-looking videos. This was a great class. The following pictures that you've just seen were an assignment that Bill Selleck gave us in practicing taking pictures from different angles, point of view shot, over the shoulder, widescreen. These were a variety of ways to show how to take a photo in a different way. Evolving Educational Technologies, Education 515 with Jay Seliskar, was focused on creating our own blog, our own website for our classroom, working with Google Drive, creating a presentation, keynote, learning photo editing, VoiceThread. He taught us how to create and use a blog that can be shared worldwide, as well as upload educational content and share via Twitter, how to use VoiceThread in class. These were all important aspects and things to learn and implement in our classrooms. Learning in the 21st Century, Education 522 with Jay Cordoff. This entire class was focused on meeting multiple intelligences through the use of technology. We were asked to create a unit plan, and so I chose to do mine on Language Arts unit plan with Langston Hughes poetry to dream. This included lesson planning, individualized goals incorporated into the lesson plan, and developing a comprehensive unit plan, all focused on meeting. This leads me to the last class, Education 526, with Jay Gilbreth, which was awesome because I started out with Jay Gilbreth, so it was a great capstone experience with Professor and all. The Digital Teaching and Learning program has really helped me reflect and look back on each assignment throughout this unit. This class has enhanced the unit. It has showed me, we worked on the growth assessment plan as well as the action research. The growth assessment plan was an overview and in-depth of how I've grown throughout this entire process and program. The action research was, we were asked to pick one task or one action that we could improve in our daily lives, that we would try to implement a plan and take data on it and see if we could improve. So for mine, it was reading the Bible. And I was able to buy the one-year Bible and tackle, especially over the new year, a comprehensive plan in order to implement reading the Bible and intimacy with God in that time. It was a closure to the all classes, and it contributed to good self-awareness. My life cycle, it helped me reflect on my own learned skills, unit. And as well as that, it helps me be excited to practice all I've learned throughout the program. Video I created in my Education 514 class. Beyond these gates, in a pond far, far away, exist many, many little frogs. Now, if you're anything like me, you are probably curious how frogs are formed. What is the metamorphosis, or the change that occurs in order for an adult frog to exist? Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit about frogs to begin. First of all, did you know that a frog is an amphibian? An amphibian is an animal that lives in the water and on land. Unlike humans, frogs have the rare ability to adapt to the water or the temperature around them. This is known as being cold-blooded. Alright, so let's talk about these cold-blooded creatures that coexist on land and water. There are 5 stages from which a frog is formed. These are the stages. Today we're talking about the life cycle of a frog, or frog metamorphosis, how an adult frog comes to be. The first stage of frog metamorphosis is the egg. Many of you did not know that eggs actually come from frogs. It is the first stage. Frogs lay their eggs in water or wet places. A floating clump of eggs is called a frog spawn. Then the large and slippery mass of eggs are too big to be eaten, and so this is nature's way of protecting them. However, the smaller clumps of eggs will be eaten by creatures living near the pond, such as ducks, fish, or insects, other water creatures. The egg begins as a single cell. Several thousand are sometimes laid at once. It becomes surrounded by a jelly-like covering which protects the egg. The female may or may not stay with the eggs to take care of the young after she has laid them, but the egg slowly develops. This is the first stage of frog metamorphosis. The second stage of frog metamorphosis is when the egg cell splits. The single cell in the egg eventually splits into 2, and these 2 split making 4 cells, and so on. Eventually there are many cells in the egg. Inside that egg is also known the embryo. The massive cells in the egg come to form an embryo. Organs and gills begin to form, and in the meantime, the embryo lives off of its internal yolk. This supplies it with nutrients for 21 days. This concludes the cell-splitting embryo form. In stage 3, a tadpole sprouts from the embryo. After the 21-day development period, the embryo leaves its jelly shell and attaches itself to a weed in the water. This quickly becomes a tadpole, or also known as a baby frog. The tad will grow until they are big enough to break free into the water. This can take from 3 to 3 weeks. 3 days to 3 weeks, depending on what kind of frog they will become. They eat small plants and stick to larger plants. These tiny plants are known as algae. The tadpole has a long tail and it lives in the water. It is extremely vulnerable and must rely on its camouflage to protect it. The long tail helps the tadpole live in the water. They face danger by being eaten by other water animals, so sometimes the pond dries up, and this is, as a result, is why some tadpoles don't make it. In stage 4, the tadpole begins to change. After about 5 weeks, the tadpole slowly starts to grow hind legs, which are soon followed with 4 legs. Behind their head, bulges appear where their front legs are growing. Their tails become smaller, and lungs begin to develop, preparing the frog for its life on land. Now and then they wiggle to the surface to breathe in air, but the tail becomes larger and makes it now possible for the tadpole to swim around and catch food. They eat plants and decaying animal matter. Some tadpoles eat frogs, eggs, and other tadpoles. In there, we're almost there. Over time, this tadpole becomes even more frog-like. They have shed their skin and lips. The mouth is now wide open and it loses its horny jaws. The tail becomes much smaller and legs grow. The lungs are almost functioning at this point. At this point, the tadpole has become a baby frog, and now our final stage is an adult frog. 11 weeks after the egg has been laid, a fully developed frog with lungs, legs, and no tail emerges from the water. This frog will mostly live on land with occasional swims. The tiny frogs begin to eat insects and worms. Eventually, it will find a mate. The way this is done varies depending on the species. The female lays the eggs, the male fertilizes them, and the whole process begins again. I hope you learned something about how a frog is formed. Join us next week as we look into land animals and how they are formed. Land animals like puppies. Different species. On my page, these are the different lessons under Life Cycle, a Different Species curricular unit. So as a teacher, I would come here and I would click lessons 1 through 5. Here, I would see a comprehensive unit, starting with lesson 1, as well as the grade level and what targets would be hit. This was from Daniela Rodriguez, and it was the butterfly life cycle. So I start with the butterfly life cycle, and I move through each different animal. I also use literature like The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Lesson 2, I also incorporate technology, so the use of Keynote or the use of a PowerPoint, or the use of iMovie. It is getting students to really retain the information by applying what they have learned. My favorite part of the unit is probably from Jacqueline Raniger's 8 lessons. They're lessons 14 through 21, approximately 30 minutes each. I like how she organized the last 3 lessons. She targets life cycle key terms like birth, growth, reproduction, and death. She works through each of these, as well as provides background knowledge, as well as the resources that will help achieve this. Each lesson is 30 minutes long, and the objectives are clearly stated, as well as the standards clearly met. I like that at the end of this, she provides summative and formative assessments, as well as provides the questions and answers for each kid to assess where they are at in their understanding. That's my Education 526 capstone experience. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.